Good morning and welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna. Great to see you on this happy Monday. Happy Monday, everybody. I am pulling up, we're doing it at the end of the episode, but I am pulling up from Jane, our randomized. Jane, why can't I find it? Panic. I already looked at it. Now I'm panicking. Um, let's see. I think, yes, got it. Winners. We have two winners today for our book giveaway. So we have been looking at, sponsored by Rug Hooking Magazine. We have been looking at, just going to open it up so that's ready for us. By the way, I loved reading your answers about what the first record was that you bought with your own money. We're going to do that. We're going to do that today too. But today is about sort of concluding the episode, the conversation about this book, which was our giveaway book, the first of 3 giveaway books. And I just got in the mail because I could not find my copies. That also by Rug Hooking Magazine, the Celtic design book, the Hooking for Babies and Children, you know the one I mean, and the Hooked on Handwork, which I had never seen before. So I'm looking at that one now myself. And they also sent the fairy tale book, which shame on me, I had not seen before either. I didn't even realize it was out yet. So anyway, we have got a good episode. We're going to conclude our look at this book. And at the end of the episode, I will shout out to the 2 winners. And you can be looking for, because I'm forwarding your information today to Rug Hooking Magazine, and you can be looking out for those 2 copies. And then we will have 2 more giveaways immediately after this, starting on Monday. Maybe starting on Wednesday, actually, because we have a Wednesday episode. So maybe starting on Wednesday, maybe we'll look at the Celtic book on Wednesday. Oh, let's see. Moving to Gambia. Hello from Doreen in Inglewood, California. Good to see you. Or you arrived early. I arrived a minute late. I'm sorry about that. Anita in London, Ontario. Great to see you. You went to the Oxford Hookin' and it was in Woodstock on Saturday. There was quite a turnout. Seems turnout. Seems like all wanted to visit. Well, that's fantastic. You know, I forgot to say, what is wrong with me? It was Punch Needle Day over the weekend. I'm not such a punch needle person as I am a hooking person, but I still punch, right? In fact, I just put out a punch class this morning or last night. So that's there and that's in the thread if you're a beginner and you want to start punching. But I hardly ever keep up with these special days, don't I? And I love special days. It's just they're not really on my radar. And when I think about people who punch, I think about Amy and I think about my buddy at Storyteller Wool, Rebecca. More than I think about myself. But happy belated Punch Needle Day. I bet it was super, super fun. I wish I had my ducks in a row and I wasn't so busy because I would have enjoyed sitting around and hooking a little bit over Zoom. But we're going to do that soon with our hooking anyway. The other hooking's coming up. I just dyed yesterday the wool for the willow wheat for me. So I'm going to put that up in our Facebook group so you can really see what that pattern is going to look like. The colors are absolutely beautiful. I'm pulling from a swatch set I also dyed all over the weekend called April Showers with a bunch of yellows. It's going to be a beautiful piece. I can't wait to do another hooking live with you. Heidi, great to see you in Belgium. So good to have. I know it is so fun to get together. It's sunny but a bit cold. Here too. It's the same. It's crisp and brisk and all of those things. But I think we're well on our way to spring. April, great to see you. Great to see you. I feel like I need to catch up with you again. We talked for just such a short time over the phone thing with the video the other day. It was like, boom. That was when I was super, super sick and dragging. Candace, great to see you. Good morning. April, good morning. Great to see you. Kaaren, good morning from Black Forest, Colorado. Great to see you. Gorgeous spring day. Robin, hello in Wisconsin. I know you sent your rug for the Pierre show, so I'm looking forward to that. Exciting. So I'll be starting to set up the show on Thursday with him. So if you have other stuff coming, just let us know, just so we know. Maybe you already have. Jane is dealing with like all of that stuff. So I'm receiving things on this end, and he and I will be together. We'll certainly do a video that day. Start hanging stuff and figuring out where things are going, creating this section specifically for the Van Gogh rug. I don't think I'm going to have time to finish mine. It's like physically impossible at this point. But it's okay, isn't it? It's okay, right? It's in the grand scheme of things, it's okay. Oh man, Sue's great to see you in Kansas. Crystal, great to see you. I saw that, which Arquette was it? Patricia Arquette commented on your thing that was rightfully beautiful. That was exciting. Linda, great to see you in New Jersey. And Judy, I am feeling a little bit better. I still don't feel 100%. So it's got to be the allergy thing, right? My throat is a little bit better. But that dragging sickness, isn't it weird this year? I feel like there's like it's a totem pole of ailments, right? Because I know I had something because it was like the small of the back, the skin hurt to pull my pants up and stuff. And then I think that allergies were piggybacking on that, and it became so difficult to figure out what was wrong. It was like the perfect storm of like stupid symptoms. But I think we're getting there now. Thank you for asking. Kara, great to see you in Illinois. Judy says, I've seen some ads. The fairy tale book looks lovely. It does look lovely. It does look lovely. I'm really looking forward to covering that. I didn't see the show. I remember it was the source of frustration. I don't want to be negative, but I remember when Rebecca was here and we were hanging out from Storyteller World last summer, and I was dropping her off at the Pearl McGowan thing. There was this big hue and outcry to not take photographs at the show, and I thought, oh, well, I'm not going to drive back for an hour and a half each way to the show tomorrow if I'm not able to use the content here because life is just too busy. So I ended up not, right? Which I guess in a perfect world, I would have gone and looked at it and enjoyed it with my heart and put it into my memory museum. But for me, everything is kind of work when it's this busy. So I really wanted to take photos, and it was a huge invisible no-no. So I missed it. But if it comes again, I really do want to carve away some time to see it if it comes anywhere near me again, because they are beautiful rugs. I just flipped through the book, but we'll look at that. I'm just debating. Let's look at that next week, because I do want to do the giveaways too. I know you're looking forward to being winners, right? Let's see. Jane, my love, good morning. Happy coffee time. Dawn, I wanted to send you a message as well. You are not late. You are great. Happy Monday, Bonnie. Happy Monday in Palm Coast, Florida. Great to see you. So many buddies are on, and it is an exciting day because of the giveaway. Let's do the content first, right? Let's be in suspense for a little while longer. So I just wanted to let you know, let's get business stuff out of the way. Oh, the Design Like class, the second one for Design Like Vintage Vogue was last night. It was, I think, fantastic. I just can't wait to see what people do because the sketches that people were showing in the classes were amazing. And I was very excited. Do I have, yep, I got my glasses. And so then I announced the next Design Like, which is Design Like Paul Klee. So I know a lot of you love him. I love him too. And it's a good time to work on his style, right? So that is the next Design Like class. It's not something I can use for the book because the book has got to be the first Design Like book, but we can think about it for a second Design Like book. So join me for that. That will be a lot of fun. Of course, he was a great colorist, a great modernist, a painter, such sort of cheerful, symbolic energy, really fun, very pattern driven, very graphic, lends itself very well to rug hooking and rug making in general, right? Would also lend itself really well to Rhea rugs, latch hook rugs, all kinds of rugs, right? Not just hooked rugs. So interesting because they're so graphic, right? They can handle like a high pile or pixelation and lots of things we can do with Paul Klee. So I'm really looking forward to that. And also the punch needle class is out there too for you, a design called Starflower. Simple design that I will have tacked with upholstery tacks to a wooden frame, right? It'll come like that, so it's already stretched. And when you're done punching it, it's a 12 by 12. Did I say 12 by 12 frame? When you're done punching it, you can just take the tacks out, reuse it that way if you like that system for hooking or punching. And then you can use your Starflower piece and turn it into a pillow, frame it for the wall, turn it into a mug rug, right? Because it'll be about 10 by 10 when it comes off the frame. So that'll be a lot of fun. I'm starting the dyeing on that piece, and I haven't hooked it yet, right? I'm going to be punching it with you, not in a live punch along situation, in a class situation. So, but it will be the colors that I'm showing in the advertisement for it. So that's out there too. Good morning, Linda Ann. Great to see you. And April says, my teacher, Linda Bell, has fairy tale rug in the show. Fantastic. We will take a special look at hers without a doubt. Colleen, great to see you. Hello in Maryland. Lisa, good morning in Pennsylvania. Everybody's logged on. That's great. We can start. I was just going to say something else. Okay, so something exciting happened. I think it was on Thursday or Friday. The family of, we did more than one episode on Stella Rex, known as Bunny Rex, or to her family. A family member wrote to me and said, we got so excited when we found your video covering my great grandmother's book, because the book is like from the 1920s, right? So I got very excited. And he said, oh, we have so many rugs. You know, she taught the mother, obviously her daughter, the granddaughter, the aunt, like there's a bunch of family members who are hookers as a result. Of course they are, because they were related to this character in rug hooking royalty, Stella Rex, who wrote a sort of how-to book that we covered, but also by hook or by crook, the kind of comedy book. So it's a memoir, right, told from the point of view of the husband, like the long-suffering husband. So super funny. I'm very excited for this connection. So I'm starting to interact with the family and figure out what we can get to know as far as what rugs can we look at in person. They're also quite close to me in New England. So I said, not to be creepy, but I would love to be able to plan a road trip to get together and look at not just Bunny, as they call her, Bunny's rugs, but all of the family rugs that were a result of that teaching, right? So super exciting. I got super excited this weekend about that. So that's a big to be continued. And however that transpires, it's definitely going to transpire into a writing project. But if it's also visiting and things, I'm taking you with me. So we'll all be there together to see things at the same time. And I feel like I'm just super excited. I'm super excited because I was researching like crazy when I ran those episodes, and I kept hitting walls. And I didn't want to go that extra stocky step of starting to go into the family tree and all of those websites. But they ended up coming to me in the end, so that's even better, right? So yes. So to be continued on that front. Super exciting. I know. It's the second time that's happened. Priscilla Ruggs, that happened too, and we're still working together on that project. Exciting. Dave says, hi all, where are my bleeping scissors? I know that feeling. I know that feeling. The kids usually have my super sharp scissors and they're like cutting paper with them. Oh, uh-oh. So, all right, so let's return here because we were loving, yeah, there's a lot to cover in this episode. Let's see how far we get. We can always, I don't want to skip over stuff, and we left off last week looking at the Story Rug book by Paulette Hackman. We left off with Trish Johnson. I remember I was getting super choked up, and it was right about at the hour. So I thought, let's stop and let me recover myself a little bit. It was such good stuff. This is the one we ended on. Do you remember this from Wednesday? So let's look at the next one. We're still with Trish Johnson right here. Now, when I started looking at her work, not just in the Story Rugs book here by Paulette Hackman, but I've seen it in other places as well, certainly Rug Cooking Magazine, maybe Celebration. But I know I've seen this one, and I thought, oh, she is the person who does these beautiful kind of vintage postcard images with text. Like, this really moves me because this one's called My Grandmother's Diary. So you get what's going on here, right? Designed and hooked by Trish Johnson of Toronto, Ontario. Anita, do you know Trish? Dave, do you know Trish? I mean, it's like, yeah, Toronto is a city, but I'm just wondering with the community, if either of you know her, because you're both like right there. This is number 4, number 5 cut wool on linen. And she wrote, my grandmother lived on Machiasil, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, Machiasil Island. Her father was the lighthouse keeper. Oh, she met Jim Balmer, captain of the Crayola, which was it sounds like Crayola, but with an L, which was a schooner, when he was delivering a load of coal. When he left, she wrote in her diary, and that ends the Crayola and Captain Balmer at Machias Seal Island. Later, she went back and corrected her entry. That does not end Captain Balmer and the Machias Seal Island. On this guy, I have hooked a page from my grandmother's diary. I have kept my grandmother's handwriting. You have to work hard to read it. I have kept some mystery in it by deliberately letting some words drift behind things. He, Captain Balmer, kept coming back. Oh, she married him, and they had 3 daughters. One was my mother. This was a pivotal event in my family's history. Choking me up again. So let's see if we can read it. Until, maybe that's Balmer? Until, or I'm already lost, calls for, nope, I'm not that good. I'm going to have to study it later with my even better glasses on. I like at the bottom it does say, that does not end Captain Balmer at, and then something island, right? MSI. How cute. Oh my gosh. I'm trying to read it, and it is a little bit tough to read. And she's saying she did that on purpose. You have to work for it. I think I would need like my number 4 glasses to be able to really get there. but super fun, super fun. Oh, Dave, you haven't met her. She must be so lovely. She's got such stories. Um, these are just such poignant stories, too. Another sort of hit out of the park with this beautiful family piece. It really gets you thinking. And, you know, we talk about text a lot with rug hooking because I feel like, especially with story rugs, text adds so much. It doesn't just personalize, right? Using someone's actual handwriting like this, hey, Kirsten, is so special. You're capturing it, right? It puts it in a kind of a time capsule and turns it into art at the same time. It is eternal in this form. I just absolutely love it. It's just a beautiful image. The lighthouse, right? I always think of lighthouse keeping as such a solitary thing. But there are such romantic stories about lighthouse keepers. So it can't be too solitary. This one had a happy ending, right? Oh, you don't actually live in Ontario. Well, always let us know if anybody knows any of the people we're talking about in these shows, because it is so much fun to make those connections. And we are a small community. Here's another one by Trish called Memories of Oak Point. About 35 inches by 44 inches, number 3 and number 4. So she hooks very, very fine. And when you look at this piece, my word, I'm going to stretch it out a little bit. Yeah, it's obviously very, very fine. It's photographic in its fineness. It's extraordinary. I love how there is a map behind it. You see the river? The river runs through it with the leaves. Has a scrapbook quality, doesn't it? Isn't that wildly great? I'll make it small again so we can look at this piece a little bit. That is wildly great. It's a little bit dark. I'm sorry, remember I took these photos, the first batch at night. The rest I just took a minute ago. Memories of Oak Point. Every summer, my mother took my sister and me to Oak Point, New Brunswick. The map map in the background is an old map when there were passenger steamships on the river. The St. John River is sometimes referred to as the Rhine of America. It is 450 miles long and 1.5 miles wide in some places. Whoa. The house with the flag, so that's the one on the top right, was built by my great aunt Betty. Then it was my grandmother's, and then Aunt Anne's, and now it belongs to my cousin. Wow, talk about staying in the family. Isn't that romantic? My great-grandfather, Matthew Balmer, bought Oak Point. It was the first land anyone in his family owned. The other house was my Aunt Eliza's house. In my mother's childhood, my grandmother was charged with keeping the lighthouse. In my childhood, Great-Aunt Betty had the job of keeping the light. The rug is my Great-Aunt Betty's life story. She was christened, married, and buried at the church. So there's the church in the top left. Oh, God! Windy Nook was her house. Let's see, Windy Nook. I guess that must be the top right? Or it could be the bottom left. Windy Nook was her house. She died at my Aunt Eliza's house when she was over 90. My mother took her children home to Oak Point, and I did the same. I took my children home to New Brunswick. I couldn't take them home to visit their grandmother because she'd already died. So I took them home to visit my grandmother, who lived to be 102. My 2 sons, Douglas and Patrick, are exploring around the lighthouse just like I used to do. Oh, God, these are killing me. These are such beautiful vignettes. Whoo, chokey chokes. Wow, these Trish Johnson rugs are absolutely amazing. Really, isn't it great when a story goes full circle like this? It's so, so moving. It's so sentimental. It's such a gift to be able to look into somebody's life like she's allowing us to look with these very detailed, really storytelling driven compositions. And they're so beautifully hooked. They are just the ultimate examples of hooking. Absolutely beautiful. So that whole chapter on Trish Johnson, I just kind of, I just did a little bit of it. There's a lot more. I'm trying to recover from that real quick. So let's move on to, let's see, I had a bunch more that I want to show you. Let me find my page. So this one is going to be by K Wilde, Wilde. Also loving this one, just looking for the page. There we go. I love this. This is primitive style, right? And this actually is my favorite kind of style. This is called Morning Sampler Rug. And it says on it, Joe Wilde, and then the date, right, 1960, and then blessings to come, Greg, Ron, Ryan, and Cliff. Oh, how beautiful. 32 inches by 26, number 8 cut, wool and yarn on monk's cloth, drawn by Lauren Wilde and designed and hooked by K Wilde of Kaysville, Utah. Um, that's nice. Kay lives in Kaysville. Isn't that fun? Yeah, April, those rugs are so beautiful. Heidi, right? They are just, whew, they really got me. So this rug, Morning Sampler rug, I just love this. I love a weeping willow. That's why I'm doing a weeping willow in the next hook-in. They're just so, it's one of the symbols of mourning, right? One of the great Victorian and earlier symbols of mourning, but very Victorian. They really took hold of the symbol, I think, because the weeping willow tree has that sort of quality or property of being able to bend in the wind or bend in a storm. So follow through kind of analogy is like, when times are rough, you must bend like a willow to weather the storm. So beautiful connotation there, beautiful piece of storytelling, just looking at a weeping willow rug. You see the way that this is hooked with variegated wool strips? That is really, really good because you're getting the color change as you go down. It almost looks like they're little ribbons that are moving in the breeze, right? They are so beautiful. They also provide so much shade, such a canopy. There's just something so exquisite about a weeping willow, right? Now, this says our first boy was born in October of 1960. So that's Joe, and that's on that monument right there, and only lived 27 days. Oh, God. I've always loved antique mourning oh God, embroidery samplers. So I decided to hook my own version to remember the son we lost. Gulp. The rug depicts the traditional elements of the weeping willow tree, a church house, and a cemetery monument. The blessings to come are the names of our next 4 boys. Whew. Okay, hold on. I'm going to take a sip of water. Why didn't I realize that so many examples in this book are super, if not sad, very moving, right? Mm. It absolutely does, Robin. Karen, that helped. It does remind me of the Masterpiece Theater opening too, the Edward Gorey opening, right, with the woman like laying back on the pillar and going, oh, oh, and there's like all kinds of examples of people hiding behind oversized vases and with unusual murder weapons, right? Very funny. Do you remember that whole? I think the whole mystery series was with Diana Rigg, but it did have this kind of art as an opening, but in black and white by the artist Edward Gorey. Very, very similar scene because it was very pastoral, very sort of rural country scene with all of these kind of emblems to it. So that was a good crossover, and that got me out of that terrible choke up. But this is a very sad piece, but a beautiful piece, beautiful commemorating that lost child, and very touching. Exactly, Judy, a very healing piece. I'm sure it was very cathartic to work on this, and what a beautiful memorial. The 2 figures in black. Okay, it's happening again. So let's move on. Hopefully you win the book, and you can look at that at length because that's a rough one. Um, this one's great. This one's a bit more cheerful, I think. Brothers Forever. He Ain't Heavy. Joe, Greg, Cliff Wilde, Ron, Ryan. So much family driven work here. Kay really loves is inspired by the family unit and family times. And really that is the greatest inspiration, isn't it? When you pull from your own family tree, you get the most sentimental and the most thoughtful and meaningful rugs you could ever possibly get. This one is 33 by 27, number 8 cut wool, so very primitive in style. Love this style. I just love primitive. This rug shows our boys lined up in birth order. The boy we lost was born first, and he is shown all in white. I wanted to make a rug to remind the boys that they are brothers forever, even though they never knew their oldest brother. Whew. Okay. So it is a beautiful piece, and it is also very sad. These are just gorgeous rugs. They are very, very sentimental. And it's so again, it's such a gift when people make rugs like this because you're able to share in their family's story. And normally we walk around and we pass each other on streets and in restaurants, and you don't really get involved in other people's lives unless you're very close friends. This is a medium where you can really tell your story, particularly with storytelling rugs and text. You can really tell stories to other people, and other people are interested, right? Because we all share the same life experience, even though our experiences might be different. Everybody can feel for each other and empathize and relate, right? And some more than others. So another really beautiful piece by K Wilde. Let me see what this next piece is. Oh, okay, this is also K. They began and rejoiced, buried tiny bodies in shallow graves, wept and began again. Then entered the valley with joy, beat crickets off their vanishing hops, starved, wept, and began again. We wept, remember, began again, and rejoice. So wait a minute. This is I've read this before. I think we must have looked at this. This is called Hand Cart Pioneers, 26 by 32, number 8 cut, wool on linen, drawn by Lauren Wilde, to incorporate a poem by L. South, the letter L. South, designed and hooked by K. Wilde. My great great grandfather, Christian Hansen, and my great great grandmother came to Utah, pulling all of their worldly possessions in a hand cart. Wow, in the 1860s, right? Because going to Utah in the 1860s usually meant the Conestoga wagons, right? Making that cross country trip for some people, depending on where you're starting from like the Mississippi River, right? And that's when we get these tragic stories of these journeys where it was very, very, you remember this from history class, it was very hard to tell when to start these journeys to settle west. Because if you started too late, the trip was so long that you would run into bad weather, cold weather at the end of the trip. But if you started too early and you weren't through with the winter weather yet, you would die that way. A frost of cold and freeze to death and not have anything to eat, not be able to find any food. I mean, this is really bad, isn't it? Donner Party, right? This is the era of the Donner Party. And I remember when I was a tour guide, because we went to Utah and we did a lot of the territory with the Western tour that covered this trip, right? So we talked a lot about Lewis and Clark and the westward, the opening up of the West and all of that, all of those great stories. And I remember cute things about those stories, like how some of the wagons they kept some animals with them that could survive, right? It was always a big if every year. It was just like Russian roulette, choosing your day to go, and you would go with a group in most cases. When the other people were going, you would set out too. I mean, nobody really would on purpose set out by themselves because it was just way too scary and dangerous. But people would put like a little bucket of milk on the back of their wagon, and it would be traveling along, right, with the wagon all of those days, weeks, months, boom, boom, boom. And as they went in the bucket would jiggle up so much that the milk would become butter. And then they would have little sort of luxurious scoops of butter, which I thought was one of the sweet things about those days. This is a different kind of a story because her great great grandfather went with a hand cart. So they must have been coming from a little bit closer because obviously without shelter and a place to sleep, that would be very difficult. I'm sure that this was a very difficult trip. Absolutely beautiful. I love the figures. I love the movement. It's a very rugged landscape, right? There is nothing cozy about this landscape. The words are beautiful and comforting and fortifying, but, hey, Rebecca, but it is, it feels uncomfortable, doesn't it? It feels like there's a lot of unstable movement in the directional hooking. It's a beautiful piece. It has a real impressionist quality to it, but it is a story that we've all heard and a story that's almost unthinkable, right, for most people, because so many people didn't make it. And the ones who did, the Mormons, yeah, what a rough time. That is a huge understatement, isn't it? And this is a very sort of whimsical and maybe inappropriate note, but I love the Sunbonnet Sue character, like the sunbonnet. And I think that's really helpful to the anonymity of the faces, right? Because it's just like plodding along. These are 3 of the people who did it, but there were thousands of people who did it. I just love this piece. Another beautiful piece. Doesn't this really go to show how far you can go with a primitive cut? K Wilde is, I'm going to say it, one of the great masters of the primitive cut. This is Roslyn Logsdon. So Roslyn Logsdon, Logsdon. And this article is called Cafe Conversations. So this article is like this size, and there's a few pieces, vignettes of overheard conversations. And I just love this idea because sometimes when you think, I've got no inspiration, I have no ideas, nothing is hitting me the right way, I'm out of mojo, I got nothing. It's not a bad idea to go to a cafe and eavesdrop. Honestly, this is like one of the greatest breeding grounds, eavesdropping, of storytelling ideas, because you can listen to. Isn't it great to eavesdrop in general? I mean, really, this is one of the reasons my sister and I go to so many kind of hotel lounges, particularly in cities, because people are there who don't live there, and they're having crazy conversations at the bar, and you just overhear things that are so wonderful. And some of those things I remember for decades after, because they were so interesting. Other people's lives, other people's stories, right? You can borrow on someone else's story and make a story rug that way. But if you feel like your stories are not hitting you the right way, or they're too painful, what a great idea, right? So this is a piece, this is a piece called Conversations. It is 14 by 17, number 3 cut wool, so very fine cut, by Roslyn Logsdon of Laurel, Maryland, made in 2009. And she said, at a bistro in Washington, D.C., 2 ladies were sitting at different tables by the window. I was sitting farther back watching them. Suddenly they started talking to each other. What was interesting was that they were so different in appearance. The lady on the left seemed to be a tourist from Middle America. She was wearing sparkly clothing, lots of bright jewelry and sneakers. The lady on the right looked like she'd got off a plane from Paris. She had on high heels, slim pants, a silk scarf. So different, yet they found each other. Oh, see, that chokes me up too. What is wrong with me? Everything chokes me up. But isn't that beautiful? I never read this stuff before I come live, right? That is just a beautiful story because it's a unifying story, isn't it? People find each other. Good people find each other, just like Jane Austen said. Isn't it nice when good people find each other? And they always do. So this is just an example of that famous quote, but absolutely beautiful. What a great story. And it makes the point that I was making in a more stupid way. When you get into these situations where there's tourists around, you do see things and you notice things, and there are strange kinds of mashups, right? A hopeful holler makes happy Monday, y'all. Oh, great to see you. Good morning. Happy Monday. Oh, I'm just going to take a sip. This got me too in a different way because it's so beautiful when people find each other. And it's just so beautiful in this day and age. Hold on. When people talk to each other. I mean, isn't that the thing? That's one of the reasons I felt like I needed to move away from the Netherlands, because it's certainly not as common in the Netherlands. This is a very mild understatement. It's certainly not that common to chat or to say hello to people. And when you are somebody who's used to chatting and talking in the grocery line or talking everywhere, it's hard to make that change, because that's, for a lot of people, just chatting with strangers is a way to connect. Some people are lonely. Other people like me just like to chat. I just like to chat. I'm not going to ask you for your number or to stay in touch. I just think it's fun to acknowledge other people in chat. And I see that getting a little bit lost as the years go by. So a piece like this just reminds us it is nice to acknowledge the people around you, isn't it? You will find things in common with them, right? You are living at the same time in history. And in this case, both of these people are women. So we're already talking about 2 things in common, right? If everything else is off or different, well, that's just more stuff to talk about, isn't it? It's so fun to just stick your neck out a little bit and reach out to strangers. You get into the most funny and fun conversations that way. I love that piece. That's a lovely article too. I'm just giving you kind of a cross section of what is in this book. This is Rebecca Knudsen, Knudsen, and this article is called Family. Let me show you what the article looks like, because these are short-ish articles from different artists. Right. So this is Rebecca, and I think it ends. Yep, it ends just with this page here. So it's these 3 works that we're looking at. We're looking at one together. This piece that's called, and the subtitle for this is Family Narratives in Fiber. I'm going to pull this piece larger for you, but oops, wait a minute, hang on. Isn't this a really extraordinary piece? Louisiana Carrie Hepler, 4 foot by 6 foot, number 8 cut wool on linen, designed and hooked by Rebecca Knudsen of Saratoga Springs, Utah, 1999. The image is of my grandmother, and her name is the title of the piece. So this is Louisiana Carrie Hepler. She had 11 children, 2 of whom were full term but died during childbirth. The names of all 11 children surround the rug. I have placed my grandmother on a horse with wings because no matter what happened to her, she never stopped flying through life with enthusiasm and joy. She worked at the ZCMI, a department store in Salt Lake City. What is the ZCMI? That must be the abbreviation. I don't know if I know that one. ZCMI, department store in Salt Lake City. Oh, she's dressed beautifully, so I'm not surprised. And when I visited her, she always gave us a dime to get an ice cream cone. She became a beacon for all 9 of her children, as well as for those who called her Grandma Lou. Oh, this is so beautiful. This is another one that is so beautiful with the names of the children around the edges, including the children who didn't make it. And it's signed on the belly of the horse. Let's stretch this and look at this together. What an extraordinary piece. Don't you just love that triangle border? Isn't that absolutely astonishingly beautiful? Oh gosh, and her jacket looks a little bit like Bargello, doesn't it? Look at all the kind of stars. Isn't it curious and interesting that this is a night scene? Isn't it? I mean, really, I really love that it is. I think it packs a lot of drama being a night scene. Look at all the great directional hooking in this piece. Her jacket, her skirt, right? The patterned coat of the man behind, which is probably the husband. Her hair, right? Look at the way the curls are articulated in her hair. Oh, April, I love this piece so much too. I love the movement between the stars, right? There's like almost like lightning kinds of streaks connecting the stars that could also be read as flowers. It's creating another border. We've got the beautiful border that is filled with those really intricate triangles. Remember, this is a very large piece. And then we've got the sun in the far border, and then the moons you see in the inner border corners. There's little red moons with white stars on like a royal blue square. Let's work our way down. I love the jacket, the necklace, the Peter Pan collar, the matching earrings. I mean, she's so put together. You would expect to find her behind the counter at a department store, wouldn't you? Kaaren says ZCMI is the shopping mall, and so okay, it's called ZCMI. It's kind of an unromantic name, isn't it? I mean, it must be somebody's initials, but oh, Zion's Co-op Mercantile Institution. There we go. Now it makes sense. I see why they say CCMI. It's a mouthful, isn't it? Absolutely beautiful. Look at this skirt. I love the pattern on the skirt too. It's not a polka dot. It's like little drawn lines. Oh, never miss a trick. How cute. That must be a phrase from Family Times, right? And it's signed on the belly of the horse by Rebecca. This is just an absolutely beautiful piece. That might be Rebecca there under her hand. Wonder if there's any dimes in it from the ice cream. And then shoes. Oh, her shoes are left on the ground and she is standing on the back of the horse. That is, oh, and there's ice cream cones in the bottom corner. Do you see the 2 ice cream cones on the inner borders in the corner? God, is that beautiful? And it looks almost like there's maybe flowers or roses in the 2 bottom corners. So there's suns and moons at the top and ice cream cones, and it looks like flowers on the bottom. So much movement here. It's such a beautiful piece. It's such unusual colors. And, you know, this is one of the things that I was drilling in during the Design Light class on Wednesday and again last night. You know, thinking about the time of day is a big thing when you're planning your rug, because so many of us go for like daytime, right? We live most of our lives in the daytime, and that's what we think about when we're thinking about a composition. But using nighttime is really dramatic, really dramatic. And I think this stands out so much better in the nighttime. It's mysterious, it has very high impact, and certainly the character pops. Absolutely, absolutely beautiful. So there's a bunch of beautiful pieces from Rebecca in that article. And then there's another, I think this is where we only have a few more. I was rushing through. But we will do the drawing result too. There's this piece too that is called folk life rugs, right? So this is how long this feature is. Let me just be sure. I'm going to do an overview of the book one more time too, but folk life rugs like this, right? So beautiful, beautiful spread. Now, when you look at these rugs from a distance, because we're going to look at all four of them close up, don't they remind you of like Oriental slash Eastern rugs? I mean, isn't that remarkable? At first glance, they do, for me, look like that. So let's dig in because this is an interesting article. These are four folk life rugs. Uh, this is called Arnie's Farm, and I'm going to stretch this out for you as well. Let's just look at it as just one sort of cohesive piece to start with. You see the blocks, like the children's building blocks on the corners with initials, and you also see the blocks spelling Arnie at the bottom. So this piece is called Arnie's Farm. It is 33 by 56, number 5 and number 6 cut wool on linen. Designed and hooked by Hilary Farquhar of Brattleboro, Vermont in 2012. And she writes, I was, I assume it's a she. Hilary is a man or a woman's name. Does anybody happen to know? Because these are going to be four different rugs by four different people. It's Hilary with one L, if that's a clue. Let's see if the text gives us a clue. I was lucky enough to grow up in a rural area that still had some small dairy farms, and one, Arnie Cole's farm, became the setting for my rug. My sisters and I spent many summer days walking up the road to Arnie's to help with the cows and then play in his barn and fields. I included small scenes of us milking, and I will expand this in a second, weaning the calves, and leading the cows home. The upper right corner features the day Fawn, a frisky Guernsey calf, kicked me over in the apple orchard. Okay, wait. Okay, wait a minute. Let's come over here. I don't know. It's awful that I laugh at stuff like that, but I do. That is fun. I mean, she made it, right? She made it, so that part's okay. Oh yeah, you can see, you can see her falling on the ground. Oh, that's awful. I'm sorry. I probably shouldn't laugh at that, but that is an eventful day. You would not forget that, right? So Fawn, the frisky Guernsey calf, kicked me over in the apple orchard, included our favorite summer pastimes, fishing, reading, jumping from the hayloft, and just lying in the grass. Barn cats are scattered throughout the rug, and some of our beloved black labs, who faithfully followed us on our adventures. I took some liberties moving the woodchuck that invaded my dad's garden and our rooster, Mick the chick, up to Arnie's place. Okay, so the woodchuck and Mick the chick, um, they weren't from Arnie's farm, but they made their way there. So let's look at this from top to bottom. I do see a black dog in the distance on the top left. I see a sheep on the very top left. Do you see way at the top there is a scalloped, very sort of lacy border of hills that then turns into two. This is a beautiful composition, very Persian style composition, isn't it? And are you noticing also that it has a braided border? It looks like the sun is shining in the middle with the sun in the very center at the tippity top. Beautiful border, by the way. And either trees or nighttime on the sides. And then we come down from the furthest distance, if we're reading it like a Persian work, to the furthest distance where we're seeing these beautiful trees that almost look like needlepoint, right? Remember that sort of 1970s books of needlepoint trees where you stitch each one with different stitches? Very Erica Wilson. Really, really beautiful. That's the orchard, right, where the incident took place with Fawn. And then to the left, a beautiful, tiny, primitive house, kind of a honey-colored house with a little red door. And you see how the path to that door is stretching right down the composition. So that's important. And as we go down, I love this rug. Tractor on the right. We've got some kind of cat sitting, more sheep. We've got the child character, which may be her herself, Hilary, or he. Sorry, I still don't know because it could go either way, and I don't want to be sexist and make a determination. I love the trees that are underneath the yellow house as well too. Do you see how there's different color under their sort of canopy? It's more of a light blue color. So beautiful. And check out the directional hooking that's happening here. It's darker the further back you go, but these sort of dragged streaks of really beautiful straw colors, sort of sagey colors, all different kinds of warm yellows and kind of cool greens. Unexpected, very unexpected, really beautiful. And then another little house with a little garden outside, some flowers sticking up. There's all kinds of action happening here. It is a real record. Oh, there's the woodchuck. Do you see the woodchuck in the at the edge of the garden there with the bunny? They're like in cahoots there, taking down the garden. And that must be Mick the chick, the rooster, with all the little chicks around. How cute. And a black lab. How cute is this? Talk about a story, right? And the path leading right down. I'll make it smaller again before we leave this image. What a beautiful piece. And there are some kids milking, and down at the bottom, a small pond where there's some fishing happening, and one of the black dogs is keeping company there too. Beautiful weeping willow tree in the center. What a beautiful place. What a moment in time. Let's look at it again as one unit. Absolutely love this piece. So again, this is from, there's no kind of preface to it, but this small article or spread is called Folk Life Rugs. So let's see, because it's looking like, well, regionally, 3 of the makers are Vermont and 1 is Pennsylvania. So it looks like it's a regional. Can't be a coincidence that there are 4 rugs that have this kind of Persian look to them. Absolutely, no, because this one has a similar braid too, right? This is another beauty, and I'll stretch this one out as well. So this one is called Connections of the Hearts, plural. 7 foot 10 inches by 4 foot 1 inch, hand cut wool and silk on linen. Designed and hooked by Chris McDermott of Drummerston, Vermont, 2014. Connections of the Hearts tells the story of my family and the family of my husband, Stuart, in our life together in Vermont. My favorite parts are my sister, brothers, and their families, our houses that Stuart has lovingly restored, my close friends, and the scene with Beth and me sharing our love of all the things having to do with hooking, including drinking coffee and eating Dove candy, me, milk chocolate, and Beth, dark. Oh, wow. All right. This is absolutely beautiful. Let's look at this a little bit closer up and see what we can see. Don't you love with this composition how there is a pond in the center? I mean, we have seen this kind of composition in the past, right? Because this is something that Claire Murray did a lot of, right? The sort of village green composition. And I don't know that she was the first one to do it, but having either the green or something in the center that really anchors the piece. But in this case, water is unexpected, is really unexpected. Let's stretch this out a little bit. Oh, what? Okay, do you see what I see? It's braided in the center. Isn't that absolutely remarkable? We'll come down to that in a second. I'm just looking as we go. Oh, this is extraordinary. No wonder this is such a large rug. We don't just have the houses around the village green. I'm seeing like a checkerboard, obviously tons of people. This is like the whole cast of characters, what looks like a family portrait or photograph, groups of people, birds. Wow. Oh, wow. So the braiding of the pond in the center obviously matches exactly the braiding around the edge. Isn't that remarkable? That is remarkable. I wonder if this is a photograph of the magazine. I wonder if the kinds of fishes that I'm looking at in the water are felted on, because they couldn't be hooked onto braiding, could they? I'm thinking they probably are felted. I can't think of another thing that might work the same way. Oh God, this is just so, so beautiful. I think I see some little footsteps over on the right as well. Just looking at the different buildings that were there, and what a cozy and happy village this looks like. This is just extraordinary. Life revolving around this pond or lake, right? For these special people, this lucky group of people who enjoyed this. And it's upside down on the other side, which is perfect, because if it's down on the floor, you get to enjoy every part of it. What an extraordinary piece. That is just extraordinary. I'm going to make it small again before we leave this piece. Wow. I mean, both of these folk life pieces, and we've got 2 more folk life pieces before we close. This is extraordinary. This is so ambitious. But if you have your story in you and you want to tell a story of this scale, right? Not every story rug is epic the way that these are. in terms of the scope, right? Some story rugs are, for example, two women at a cafe, just overheard conversation, just the two characters. That's a story rug. And then at the other end of the spectrum, we've got a story like this that is really like generations of storytelling. Absolutely extraordinary. So let's look at the other two, and then we will talk about the winners and what you all sent in for the first record that you bought. And then I got a zip. I got to go pick up some rug hooking stuff on the other side of Connecticut. There's a frame that I really want for myself. It's not a brandy one. It's a homemade one, but it looks like something I'm going to love using. I'm just going to make it small so you can see the size of it first. Sorry about that. So another beautiful piece. This is called Left Passages, 29 inches by 99 inches, and 6-cut wool on linen, designed and hooked by Beth McDermott of Marlborough, Vermont, 2013. This rug encompasses so many wonderful memories from my childhood and my life with my husband, Stanley. Many of the scenes are from great trips we have taken over the years, as well as our home in Salem, Massachusetts, where we lived for more than 32 years. Oh, wow, I can tell which one that is. It was fun to think about. In the conception stage, and fun to hook. Now that it's finished, I look back at the happy times of my life. Oh God, this is just so much, isn't it? Looking at these, this book really is so extraordinary. I'm just going to make this larger for you so we can look at it together. And let's scroll down the scenes of Beth's life. This one is so different. It starts with this kind of ethnic border, right? Because it has a very Art Deco feel, it's just the way that the border looks, isn't it? It's not truly from any specific country motif-wise. It's very deco, really lovely. And look at that inner border, right? The white border with just the chips of color. That almost looks Native American to me, that part of it. Beautiful colors, right? Really beautiful colors. I think one of the things that is making this set, the series of rugs, look very sort of Eastern, or at least ethnic, right? That's a very random placeholder, but is the color palettes, right? That we're seeing a lot of blues, a lot of kind of earthy, burnt reds. Another, Judy, you're right, another super effective border, extraordinary. Look at the dog carrying the stick. So beautiful. The different animals that are present in Vermont, certainly the moose, the horses. I can't tell if that's a bear. And coming down from the water. Oh, there's a swap happening there. Looking at the different scenes, it looks like there's a couple of characters hooking. Just going to take some water. I'm not 100% yet. The piano music, right? What a beautiful accompaniment to life, hearing music from a piano. Got some riders doing some jumping. Oh, I'm just looking at the scene. I bet that's Lake Champlain there with Champ, right? Isn't the alleged sea monster in Lake Champlain called Champ or Champy? I have not been there since I was 18, and I know that because I was dating my boyfriend from high school. The only one. And we went to Lake Champlain and took a boat out on it. What a fun time that was. Absolutely beautiful. Gosh, that looks like the inn that's right on Lake Champlain. I wonder if it is. That's where we stayed. That's why I'm saying that. Interesting. Oh, Susan, good morning. You're new to the channel and you're about to go and purchase your first rug hooking tools. You can't wait to get hooked. You are going to get so hooked, but come back to us and let us know if you're having any issues because we can solve absolutely any problems, right? Problems are always technical. They never have to do with the person. It's always something that we can figure out easily together. Looks like right in the middle of this rug. Oh my gosh, how funny. The Eiffel Tower. Right, so there's some traveling happening here. I see the pyramids of Egypt. I see Big Ben and a lot of air travel. But in the middle, this is the time, part of the 32 years that they lived in Salem. And you know how I can tell. I see the silhouette of a witch flying over the Salem house. What a beautiful house. What a beautiful life. And going down a little bit further. Oh, how fun. I'm looking at the mugs that are kind of clinking. I was thinking German Christmas market at first, but they say HB. That must be a reference to something. Wait a minute. What are her? She's B and M, and her husband is Stanley. That one's a mystery. but absolutely beautiful. And this is where they're married, I guess, right at the beginning here. So, you know, with all rugs or with all art, with this kind of very vertical orientation, we are usually looking at a story in terms of chronology that the nearest thing in terms of geography or chronology is at the bottom. And as we work our way up, it's further, higher, or newer, right? So that's the way that these rugs are working as well. What a lot of fun. Let's move on to our last one. Not that I want to rush, it's just I want to get to the winner too. And let me make this a little bit smaller. I literally put these in 1 minute into the show while I was still off camera because I didn't know how far we're going to make it with content, and I wanted to be sure that we had plenty. So let's look at this one, and then we'll do winners, and then we're going to log off. So, oh, I love the witches and the airplanes too, Judy. That the storytelling, I love it when you can tell what the story is, at least parts of it, you know, because it is personal, but it's fun to be able to do like kind of an I Spy and to figure some stuff out on your own. This is called 30 Years of Teaching. 35 by 55, number 8 cut wool on linen, designed and hooked by Evelyn Lawrence of Halstead, Pennsylvania, 2002. I wanted a central flow to this design, so I used the poetry line, "Oh man with the blue guitar, you do not play things as they are." Oh, I don't know that. What song is that from? Does anybody know? How fun is that? I thought that covered me for any errors in memory as I presented some of the tales of my 30 years of teaching high school English. The images represent some of my experiences teaching and some of the assignments I gave. Oh, how interesting. For example, the dead cats were a prompt to write a composition of what makes a day good or bad. When the students asked for an example, I said, "No dead cats make a day good." And I think the perfect students forming the border speak for themselves. How fun is that? So it's a bit of a review of the exercises. There's also musical notes working as a fence all the way through. Colleen says the little stick figure students on the border are epic. They are epic. They almost look like hieroglyphs, don't they? They are so orderly, but they do also look, I said hieroglyphs, right? So it does look culturally very different, keeping up with the feel of a rug. I would love to have known with this folk life. Obviously, these people were working in tandem, right? Because these rugs have very similar themes and they have sort of an Eastern look to them. I would have loved to have known what the wording was on the shout out for these rugs because they are extraordinary. I love the silhouettes. Look, the dead cats are on the bottom left, right on their backs. I love the musical notes, keeping everything kind of together, right? Linking everything together. Basket of eggs, red high heel shoes. I bet there's a lot of four-leaf clovers for luck. There's a lot of great storytelling happening here. What a beautiful piece. I'm sorry to rush away from this one, but we are getting to the end of the Wallace Stevens Place. Had to Google it. Man with a Blue Guitar is from the Wallace Stevens Place piece. Wallace Stevens is a poet, isn't he? I'm going to have to Google that. I'm going to have to Google that too. 'Cause that's a great line, isn't it? So earlier we did, Jane and I, Jane is in Wales, and I was just waking up. We had to call it for getting entries. And I think there were almost 30 people who entered, right, Jane? And I used a randomizer thing on the phone, and I said to her, number 7 and number 19 are the first two that came up when I did random. And so the winners are for Story Rugs book, and I already have your addresses, so you can just be expecting it. Kaaren Garby and Pam Camp. You are the winners for this book. Don't lament if you didn't win. There are 2 more book contests coming up in the next couple of weeks. I just want to share your answers, right? What was the first record you bought with your own money? Kaaren said, the first album I bought with my own money was Jethro Tull, Songs from the Wood. So Kaaren, congratulations. Pam, you said the first record I bought myself was Meet the Beatles, and that will tell you how old I am. And then she did the emoji, laughing and crying at the same time, I think. Pam, congratulations. So for those of you those were the 2 winners. The rest are not winners this time, but I want to share what you wrote because it's so fun. Carrie said, first album I ever bought, The Cars, Candy O album. First concert, also The Cars. Candace said, mine was Thriller by Michael Jackson. Linda B said, the first album I purchased was Deja Vu by Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, 1970, especially for the songs Our House and Teach Your Children. Those are 2 of my favorite songs. Harvest Moon is my favorite song from that group of people. Obviously, that's a solo song, but I love all those songs. Kirsten said first record was Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. Ruth said um, Jiminy Cricket. It was a little 45 RPM record of the story of Pinocchio. I would listen to the record while looking at the images in the Golden Book. Remember that? Ping, and then you turn to the page. God, I have one of those record players and all the records for my kids, but for some reason they're scared of it, or they were when they were little, because it sometimes skips and scratches, and it freaks them out for some reason. They're like cats. They just run away. I'll have to try it again. Now they're older. She said, what a memory to recall. It was one of the first times I can recall taking images from a book and creating movement in my imagination. It really was, because it was like adding that layer of interest, having somebody read to you and having the sound come through the little speakers. That really was something, wasn't it? Those little record players and those little records with the, oh, they're so fun. And the covers were so pretty too. Of course, I would love to have a copy of the Story Rug book, but even if I'm not selected to receive a copy, your question is recalling this time of my life that I had otherwise left unopened on the shelf. A fun story rug design is beginning to swirl within my brain. Your coffee time episode today was extraordinary, evoking childhood. That was, I think, the one. It was the one from Wednesday. Oh, Ruth, thank you so much. I'm so glad that we were able to bring that memory back to you. Right, little by little, right, we chip away in all these different angles and sides, and sooner or later, for everybody, different memories come out, and hopefully good memories. Great subjects for rugs. And Cheryl said, the first 45 record, she said, dating myself, I bought was Venus in Blue Jeans by Jimmy Clanton. Still love it. Love the presentation on Story Rugs. I don't even know that song. I'm going to have to check that one out. I probably know it, right? Melanie says, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Run Through the Jungle, Bad Moon Rising, Proud Mary, oh, and the Monkees, 45s. Bought them all at the same time. I love the Monkees too. I went to see the Monkees a couple times with my mom years later, right? I love, my favorite Monkee song is Listen to the Band by Mike Nesmith. He was my favorite one because he seemed like the most serious of them as far as being a musician. Funny. Linda Schultes Hoffman says, first record I remember buying was Windy by The Association. That's a great song too. Christine Blake said, Fleetwood Mac, Rumors. I love that album. These are all great albums. April said, the first 45 I purchased on my own was Precious and Few. I lent it to my cousin so he could take it to a school dance, and I never got it back. Still love the song, though. April. Bonnie said, my first album I purchased was the 1963 Beach Boys' Surfin' USA. Oh, yeah. And Juliet said, also Pink Floyd, but The Wall. So funny. Chrissy, you said, my first record, Don't Go Breaking My Heart by Elton John. Oh, and Kiki D, right? Is that Kiki D too? Joyce said, I'm not sure, but the first album I may have bought was Tapestry by Carole King. That is one of my favorite albums of all time. I think a few of us would say that, right? That is such a classic. Doreen said, it's a long time to remember when I bought my first record, LOL, but I was a huge Beatle fan in the 60s. And for a little kid, the record I bought was a 45 of I Want to Hold Your Hand. I heard it on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1964, and I was allowed to stay up past bedtime to watch the Beatles. I still love Beatles songs today at 70. I do too. I love Beatles songs. My favorite Beatles record is the White Album still. I mean, I love Revolver and Rubber Soul, of course, but I love the White Album. Kara says, the first album I remember I bought myself was Kiss, the album with the lips all over the cover. Judy, you said, I think the first album I ever bought with my own money was Jethro Tull's Songs from the Woods. You and Karen have that in common. How funny. In April, you said, hi, Deanna. The first record I purchased was Michael Jackson's Thriller. Shame on me. Lisa, you said Lisa and the Cult Jam, Spanish Fly. Well, that's appropriate, right? Because you're a Lisa too. That is so funny. Kaz said Valerie by the Monkees. That's a great song too. How funny, because there's so many repeats here. Colleen said, the first record I bought for myself was the Beach Boys' Endless Summer. I still love them. Oh, I love them too. I love God Only Knows and Wouldn't It Be Nice. Those are my two favorites. Puts you in such a happy mood, doesn't it? And Kathleen said, Honky Tonk Woman by the Rolling Stones. It might be, those are all such great albums. It might be that what was I going to say? That there's more, but we had to end it this morning so that we could get the show shaped up for now. So what a lot of fun. What a lot of fun. And now I have to think about what the next question is I ask you to get to know you better for the next giveaway. So I will be back to you. Still getting over this stupid cold. I will get back to you. I will be back with you on Wednesday. And it looks like I'll certainly be with you on Friday because we're doing, oh, it's Good Friday. Whew. Okay, let me think on that. I will definitely be with you Wednesday. I think you know what? I'll be with you Friday. Let's conclude gallery night on Friday. Let's do it. It's a holiday weekend. If you can make it, great. I will be there at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will conclude gallery night because we have so many more to look at. But in the meantime, I'll be with you Wednesday, and I'm going to look maybe at the Celtic book. I haven't really decided which of the books, but we will start looking at a new book for the next giveaway on Wednesday. So that will be at noon Eastern Standard Time. Look at the new products I just put out in the description of this video. 2 new classes coming for you that I'm hosting online over Zoom. So they're for everybody. And have a great tomorrow. I will see you on Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Take care, everybody, and congratulations to Pam and Kaaren. Good luck to everybody else for the next few giveaways.